This is Wings on the Air.
Hi, my name is Ann Edenfield-Sweet. I'm the Executive Director and the founder of Wings for Life International. And today we have James Zanios, a very, very dear friend and a wonderful business associate here that's going to help us teach everybody how to get a job. So James is with USI Southwest, you're a business insurance specialist. So share a little bit about your background, because that'll help the audience to understand why you are such an expert in all these things.
Okay, well, currently I'm doing commercial insurance for large businesses with, 100 plus employees and a lot of assets, whether it be trucks or things that need to be insured correctly. The reason being I'm in that job now is my previous life. My family had a large food distribution business with, when we sold it, close to 600 employees and
Wow.
and close to $750 million in sales. So we learn risk management through growth, right? So when I grew up in the business, when I graduated college and came back and started working for my family, I think we had about 100 employees. So
Wow.
from 1996 to 2010, when we sold, we 6 times that in terms of sales and in terms of employees. So what comes with that is learning 6 times what to do and not to do as it pertains to hiring people and as it pertains to what you're looking for in employees as you go through that. So that sort of gives me, my expertise to be here today.
Well, and then you had a car dealership, and then you
Yes.
were president of the New Mexico Independent Car Dealers Association. So you've been in a lot of businesses, and you
Yes.
so
Well,
you
and
know
it's
a lot
just
of
it's
things.
just a matter of being part of the community and taking control when they give you the control and making sure you hire the right people. So
Okay, so today we're going to talk about that,
Yes.
hiring the right people. So from your experience, and my gosh, 600 employees, and I know you were involved with that and the cars too and everything else. What are you looking for? What are some of the key things that you're looking for in an employee?
I think this is the 5th or 6th year I've done this talk, whether it be here today on camera or at the weekly Monday services we hope to get back to soon. But I always start with, particularly because we're discussing mostly the returning citizens, and the jobs that returning citizens can apply for and get in today's society. The 2 biggest things that I always looked for was availability and reliability. Those 2 factors are going to put you ahead of 9 out of 10 other people that are in front of you in a job situation. Because quite frankly, if I'm a business owner, I need people to show up every day. That's more important. I can teach and train and help them get their jobs done and manage them through their day-to-day operations. But if they're not there, I can't get that done. And who ends up doing the work? I end up doing the work, or someone else ends up doing the work.
That's right.
So availability, I like to talk, really focus there, and is if your schedule is Monday through Friday, then you need to plan on your life working around that schedule, not, doing doctor's appointments in the middle of the week, not doing haircuts in the middle of the week, doing it between, off working hours. And you'd be surprised at how many people don't seem to think that that's, necessary, that they also want to live their lives during working hours. And so availability is, you need to set aside the time and be there. And then reliability is just showing up every day, right? It's day in, day out. We had one employee that worked for us for close to 40 years.
Oh my, wow.
And he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the fastest, but you know what? He was there every day, rain or shine, for 40 years. And that made a big difference for us. And he was a beloved employee because he was always available and always reliable. And that's really sort of the model of an employee. We can work around everything else, but if you're not there and you're not there every day, it's hard to overcome that.
Yeah, that's really true. Now, in an interview process, though, you don't know if they're going to be there. You don't have 40 years of history. So what are you looking for when you're interviewing somebody that will kind of give you an indication of perhaps they might be that loyal employee. They might be reliable.
Interview process is tough. I'll be honest with you, even as a business owner, and because it's a crapshoot. You don't know really what questions, how they go. We evolved in our process to where we were doing some personality testing. We were doing some physical testing for our manual labor jobs, and we ended up going through a process of hiring. We would typically have 50 applicants, and we would hire about 5. So it was about a 10% hire rate.
Okay.
In terms of reliability and availability, you don't know that until you hire them. You try to use all your systems and tools as an employer to delve down and get the best possible candidate in the jobs. But particularly in manual labor jobs, sometimes a body is more important than necessarily meeting all the qualifications. Well, we found that we were going to set a certain standard for each job position. And if you met that standard, okay, then you were hireable. If you couldn't meet that standard from a physical and or a personality test, then we disqualified you. So it's no different than what we learned maybe in high school or earlier, is that the cream will rise to the top if you give them skill sets to look at. Right?
That's right.
But I don't want anybody to think that there's a lot of people doing that. We were very advanced. When you go from 100 employees to 600 employees, you have to figure out processes. Most employers out there are not that sophisticated. They're looking for someone that answers the questions honestly. They're looking for someone that seems genuine in their speech and looks you in the eye and shakes your hand firmly and makes sure that you're going to represent them appropriately.
Let's talk about that for a second,
Okay.
because I know that your family business was very successful, and you weren't there knocking at the door every day, delivering all the food to the restaurants and all the places. So talk about how important it is for somebody to represent your company. And
Well,
how
that's
did
key.
you instill some of that?
Well, I mean, the little things that you start to realize, like our drivers more than likely ended up having the most touch of our customers than anybody.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Not the sales rep who took the orders, not me or my dad or my brother who were out there shaking hands and stuff. It was the driver. So we focused on their customer service and how they would deal with angry customers because we may be late, or all those types of things, so that they can overcome any type of situation so that they're most prepared to do their job, right? And again, you don't always bat 1,000, right? You don't hit them every single time. We had turnover. Turnover is just a part of owning a business, and you go through that, and what you want to do is find a core 80% of your crew that's consistent, and just deal with the 20% that unfortunately just turns over just due to lack of availability and lack of reliability. That's just sort of how it works.
Yeah, when I talk to returning citizens, the first thing I always say is talk about, did you show up for, if you signed up for a prison class, were you there every day? Did you, in school, did you miss? Or you're doing something now to make a change because you didn't skip school. Maybe you did skip school and that's why you're having problems later in life. But when you've started to grow up a little bit, it's just that being there, being on time too is really important. Yes. Yeah, you can't be late. You've got to be there. Usually I tell everybody, plan to be there 10 minutes early. Yes. Then if there are any delays or something else, then you're there.
That's good advice.
Yeah. Well, and it's really important because those trucks can't leave if the driver's not there.
Yeah, especially when you got a lot of people leaving at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, right? That's a tough take, but that's what happens. So,
driving all over the place, they would have to leave
we were
early.
A 24-hour operation, so we had people there literally 24 hours a day. So, So you have to hire for all those different type of scenarios, so I mean, again, it comes back to reliability and availability, right? You got to show up every day on time, and that's really what I really want to instill in returning citizens, is that you can prove that you can overcome your record, you can overcome whatever your past is, but you've got to smile, be confident, and recognize that you're going to have to put in your work time to earn the respect and earn the privileges that come with being available and reliable, right? I've yet to find any employee that I've ever had that was available and reliable that didn't move up the chain, make raises on a regular basis, whether they were a returning citizen or not.
Now, let's talk about returning citizens. First of all, returning citizens, people that have been in prison, coming back, turned their lives around. You hired them. And
Regularly,
so,
yeah.
but how would you recommend that somebody, if they do have some kind of criminal history, some kind of background that isn't going to come up glowing, perhaps, how would you recommend that they talk to a potential employer?
I've always told every person that's asked me that question every year is just be upfront and honest.
Yep.
Most importantly is that honesty is gonna win out every single time. And you know, when we made the decision to take a risk on somebody, I mean, it wasn't just an HR person. It was a family decision, right? Because they're going to represent our family. They have to be honest in what they're telling us and what they're trying to do in their lives. And those are the people that we check references, right, more deeply. We make sure that they've given us names that are actual people with numbers, and that they can vouch for them and say that this person is ready to make a change in their life. And that's all we're looking for, because our heart was, as a family, that if you don't give somebody who's coming out of prison opportunity, who is, right? And we had jobs. We were growing. We had opportunities for people to make a good living, and so it sort of fit with that philosophy, and it worked out. It didn't always work out, right? Not every single one was ready, and not every single returning citizen was ready to put in the hard work, because it was not easy. It's not easy showing up at 4 p.m. and not going home until 4 a.m. That's a tough shift sometimes. So you know, at times you just have to go through the process.
Well, it's true. I mean, every job there are going to be difficulties, but if you want to make a change and you want to do the job, I always tell people, act like the owner. If you act like the owner, if you're the driver and you act like you're part of the Zanios family, and you are, because you're representing them, but when you act like that owner, you're going to rise up. You're going to excel. You're going to get those pay raises, and you're going to continue and have maybe a 40-year history.
Well, and that, quite frankly, is what we gave advice to our employees, was act like you own the place. Make decisions based upon, as if you were an owner, how would you handle a situation? How would you handle a safety situation? Any of those types of things. We tried to empower our employees to make those decisions. And we also tried to keep them away from dangers. You know, we had, with as big as we got, we had a lot of items. Well, there was a lot of candy. We serviced the movie theaters, so we had movie theater all over the place. And the night crew, once a month or so, I would go give a speech to the night crew about, don't let us catch your hands in the stuff. If you need a candy bar, I'll buy you a candy. Come, my office is right there. Come get $1. I'll hand you $1 for a candy bar. Don't be stealing. And yet, we'd still find boxes open and have to deal with the people that was to the point where we had to put cameras, right? So to deter it. So I mean, those are the types of things. But eventually you find a crew who understands your philosophy as a business owner, and as long as you are consistent and as an owner and you treat everybody fairly, you have the opportunity to be successful as an owner, and you're going to have successful employees if that's the case.
So now they've been on the job for a while. What kinds of things would you recommend for an employee to be able to do? I mean, we've talked about acting like the owner. How about training? Did you encourage people to be training others and helping them, the new employees, and kind of
cross training was always a part of everything.
Okay,
right? If you always had to be cross training, and in fact, our training process, it was always a senior guy taking a junior guy and training him, whatever job that was. And we had to incentivize those guys. We didn't have to. We chose to incentivize the trainers, right? So if you do a good job and you do it really well and you become one of our better guys, we're going to ask you to train, and we're going to give you more money to do it.
Sure.
So those are the types of things that you can see. And really more importantly, it's about making the right decisions within your work environment, right? So any logical person, whether a returning citizen or not, once you are there for say a week or two, you pretty much understand the lay of the management team, who you're working with. You understand personalities, who you may not like, or who you may personality may frustrate you. And at that point, you have a decision to make. How am I going to handle each one of these situations, right? How am I going to handle every type of situation? And you know, we just try to practice and tell people is that go back to the golden rule, treat everybody the way you want to be treated, right? And also preach that means treating everybody better in every situation, so that if you have a mindset of treating everybody better, you're going to have an opportunity to grow within the company.
Well, and I know your company did that because I know your family, and it's true, when you treat people with respect and give respect, it creates a culture of respect, and it just starts to elevate everybody, and everybody starts to rise up. So that's a wonderful.
And I don't think you can be successful without everybody understanding their role in the process, right? And as best as possible. You know, it got to a point where from a size standpoint, it was hard, right? When you go from a small family business where you know everybody's name to a point where you don't really know everybody's name, it's humbling, you know, and it was humbling to at the Christmas party our last couple of years to have close to 2,000 people there.
Wow.
With spouses and everybody else who might attend, and it was humbling as a family to have that opportunity. But again, it's most importantly we tried to rely on our faith and let God take control of it and run with it, and He blessed us through that. So.
Yep. Now, dress is so important. Now, when you've got a company business and maybe they're wearing company shirts and those kinds of things, but dressing for an interview, let's talk about just that. What kind of recommendations do you have for that? And then just dress in general if you're not in an environment where you're wearing a uniform.
Yeah, I mean, and again, a lot of that depends on the position you're applying for, correct? Yep. So if we're going to focus on most of the jobs that I would assume in my brain that a returning citizen has the opportunity to apply for, you need to most importantly be clean, have a good haircut, and if not a haircut, washed and nicely styled, and clean shirt. I always recommend pants, even though I'm not wearing pants today, and a clean pair of shoes. Right? It doesn't have to be. It can be tennis shoes. It can be whatever. But just present yourself that you understand cleanliness, that you understand what it means to be professional as best you can within your dress. You know, we understand that not everyone's closet is business professional, but be as professional as you can and show up ready to show who you are, and not the person who's lazy on a Saturday, but the person who's ready to show up early on a Monday for work.
Great. Yeah. I totally agree with everything you're saying. And you mentioned a little bit earlier about references, because I get applications even at Wings, and they'll put at the bottom references upon request. And I think how foolish to do that. I'm going to call somebody and find out. I'm going to do some background checks. I'm going to check Facebook. What are they putting on Facebook? And this is Wings. And you know how tiny we are.
Yes.
A big 600 employee company. You're going to do some background checks on people.
And we did full background checks, drug testing. We had the whole hiring process. Like I said, even to a personality test before we did all that stuff, because those things cost money, right? Every drug test we did, I think, was $80. So we got frustrated with the fact that we would interview someone, be very excited, and ask them, hey, we're going to send you for a drug test. Can you pass? And they say, oh, yeah, I'll pass. And then they'd show up and they'd fail, right? So we tried to weed as much of that out before we ever sent them. So I'm sorry, what was the question?
Well, we're talking about references.
Oh, references,
Yes,
sorry.
yeah.
So references, we, in our process, required on the application, right? So most job functions now are going to require them on the application. We didn't give them, they had to have at least two. Okay, we didn't require 3 or 4, but they had to have 2 people that we could call and ask about. And our HR department would call. Did we call 100% of the people? No. But again, we set a process in place that if we needed to, we could, right? We didn't always call. That's why we hired a particular HR person in their position so that they were good at watching what we need to be watched.
Well,
right?
and I'm always amazed that then I'll get a call from somebody and they'll say, well, so-and-so put you down as a reference, and no one has called me. And that's a foolish thing to do too,
Very
because
foolish.
then I'm here like, oh my goodness. Well, let's see, do I remember that person or not? And we get a lot of interns, as you know, that come through and do service learning from
Yes.
the universities and things. And they might come for a few nights. I don't know their names. I certainly don't know their last names. And do I remember them 6 months or a year down the road? No. So I'm not going to be a good reference for them.
Yes.
So it's very important for people to pick people and to tell the reference
Yes.
folks, hey, I'm putting you down. Is it okay to put you down?
Yes.
And I have also been honest and told somebody, I don't think I'd make a good reference for you. I don't know you that well. You came and volunteered 15 hours with us and in our program, and so I wasn't side by side with you. I don't know you. And so maybe it would be better for you to find somebody that knows you better. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
You've got, again, I think it comes back to the honesty situation, right? You want to put someone down who you know that if someone calls, they're going to be excited to tell it about you, right? Not someone from your distant past, just to have a name that you think someone at the other end is going to recognize or understand. No, give them somebody who's going to give you a good reference. And those are, you should be able to find 2 people that you can do that with.
now in the insurance business, what kind of backgrounds are you doing on people that are working with you? And what about Facebook now and social media? Because I know so many companies are doing all those background checks.
Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah.
a huge thing. So,
Yeah.
that's just part of the check process. Now, it's no different than what we did. They just didn't exist back when we had Zanius Foods. Social media wasn't in the realm. My 20-year-old sons cannot believe that I lived in a time when the cell phone didn't exist. So it's pretty amazing how technology has changed so quickly. So yeah, I mean, you definitely got to watch what you post, how you post it, because if particularly in a more white collar situation, they're going to want to look and see what you've posted and make sure that you're not out of line in terms of what their philosophy is as a company and stuff like that. So it's definitely on the table. So you got to make sure and clean that up as you move forward if you're trying to apply for a job.
Well, I know I worked for the airlines way back when, and even back then, they hired one person for every 100,000. Then recently I've had a son who worked for Southwest Airlines, and they would hire about one for every 100,000 people that applied, but they had a company, their sole job was to do Facebook checks. And they did all the Facebook checks, and if somebody passed that Facebook thing, then they would go to the next stage they wouldn't even meet with anybody until they did all this background stuff. So it's so important for people to just not post all this silliness. Be very careful. You don't want to be posting stuff, I don't think, with certainly no drugs, but drinking. You don't want to be at wild parties.
Yeah.
You don't want to be scantily clad if you're a woman. I mean, if you're looking for a job, be professional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and look, we understand that's part of your personal life. We just want to make sure that it fits in line with the mission of the company, right? And that's no different than anybody else. So you just got to be prepared for that to be a hurdle if that's so important to you. So,
Yeah. Well, and when you're running any kind of business, you're going to be with those people 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day where you go to work.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
going to spend more time with those folks than you are with your own family,
That's
really.
for sure.
And so you want to be with people, and especially if you're owning the company, you want to hire people that you want to have around
Yes.
and that you're comfortable with.
Yes.
And so what last thoughts do you want to leave with everybody about just how to present themselves, how to keep loyal to the company? Share some stories about some of your successful employees.
I'm going to focus on returning citizens
Good.
more than anything,
Okay.
just since that's the setting we're in. I can recall a driver who the credit needs to go to my dad before me, because he hired James. James was a driver who was a returning citizen coming out of, I think he had some drug violations. He asked Dad for a chance. He was honest with my dad. My dad had chosen, I think years earlier, he had quit drinking or any of that type of thing through his faith, and so he understood the struggle of what this young man was dealing with, and this guy started out in the warehouse, got his record clean, got his commercial driver's license, ended up going back and forth to El Paso for us for close to 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And retired with close to $200,000 in his 401k with profit sharing and everything else.
Wow.
So I mean, it was just again, we didn't know he was going to turn out to be that guy, but he made an active choice, and I just want to tell everybody that every decision you have, every path that you go down, is there's a decision in there, whether you go right or whether you go left, right? And left leads down one way, and right, whatever that may be. But we all are logical, and most of the time are going to know what the right decision is. And I just urge those people to take that path, the right path, and not make the wrong decisions.
Well, thank you for being here today.
Yep.
I knew it was going to be great. And if you've been listening today and you're looking for a job, reliability, be there, accountability, be trustworthy, tell the truth, and just act like an owner. And if you can do those things, you're going to be successful, and you're going to come out and you're going to just do great. So hope you've learned a lot from James Zanios today. So James, thank you for being with us today. Wings on the Air is sponsored by Rainstar Capital Group. Regional Director is Bob Moore, and you could call Bob at 505-331-4246. Rainstar Capital Group, Bob Moore, 505-331-4246. This is Ann Edenfield Sweet with Wings on the Air. Thanks for being with us today.
Wings on the Air is sponsored by Rainstar Capital Group.